Hi, this is Rob. Welcome to this Cumulus Cycles video in the LAMP tutorial playlist, where we'll start using the programming aspects of the PHP language. In the last video in the playlist, we used PHP includes for code reuse across all pages in our site, and that worked well when the page content we included was consistent across the site. However, in the case of site navigation, we need to display different content dependent upon the page we're on. So in this case, we need the content to be dynamic, and we can use PHP Programming to help us out there. Now, I know this is only the fourth playlist in the web development tutorial series, and thus far, we've only covered HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, and PHP includes. We haven't gotten into actual programming yet. And in this LAMP stack playlist, we'll just scratch the surface of what's possible in a programming language. The JavaScript playlist in my channel is where we'll start to take a deep dive into computer programming. But as the philosopher Lao Tzu said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. So let's get started. An important aspect of any programming language is the syntax that's used to write the code. And in PHP, any code that's to be executed by the server before it's sent to the browser must be wrapped in this PHP syntax, where this code starts the block of PHP to be executed and this code ends it. So in this try it yourself example, in the body of the web page, we see we have an H1 and then a PHP statement. And the code to be executed is to echo the text hello world to the page. So when this is run, we see the contents of the H1 and then the echoed hello world. Another feature of programming language are variables, and variables are used to contain information. In this example, they've created three variables: text, x, and y. In PHP, you declare variables by starting with the $sign. So this first variable $txt has the value of the string hello world. The variable $x has the value of 5 and y has 10.5. So what they're doing is they're echoing the text, they're echoing an HTML line break, then the value of x, and then the value of y. And the result is on the right. Now, we can come over and modify this code. So instead of just echoing text, let's echo the string h1 plus the variable plus the closing h1 tag. Now, if we execute this, we don't see the result that we're looking for, because syntactically in PHP, we can't add a string to another string using the plus sign. In PHP, the plus sign is used for mathematical addition. So the syntax for adding strings or string concatenation is to use the period in PHP. So now we're going to echo the statement, start with an HTML h1 element, then concatenate to it the value of the variable txt, which is hello world. Then concatenate to it the string with the closing h1 element. So if we run this now, we see our hello world text, which is the value of the text variable wrapped in an h1 element. So let's do one more example here. Instead of just echoing x and then y, let's create a variable called sum, and let's set its value equal to the value of variable x plus the value of variable y. Now we can echo the value of variable x, which is 5, concatenate to it the plus sign, concatenate to that the value of variable y, concatenate to that an equal sign, and then concatenate to that the value of the sum variable. And now when we execute this, we see 5 plus 10.5 equals 15.5. So this is an example of using variables, concatenation, and mathematical operation in PHP. Another powerful feature in programming languages are conditional statements. And conditional statements are used to perform different actions based on the result of the condition. So we test the condition to see if it's true. If it's true, we'll execute some code based on that condition. If it's not true, we may or may not execute some other code. So let's take a look at an example of this. Here I've declared a variable named myNumber and set its value equal to the number 10. My condition checks to see if the value of the myNumber variable is greater than the value of 10, then I'm going to echo the string the number is greater than 10. So if this is true, do this. Else if it's not true, do that. And in the case where my number is not greater than 10, I'll echo the number is less than 10. So let's run this, and we don't quite see the result we're looking for because the number isn't actually less than 10, the number is 10. So let's just change this to 9 and run it again. And now we see the number is less than 10. And let's test it with 11, and our logic holds. Now let's address the case where the number is 10. So in this case, let's flip our logic. If the number is less than 10, we'll write out to the page the number is less than 10. And then we'll change our else to an else if and add the condition the number is greater than 10. Then we'll write out the number is greater than 10. Now this will catch the case where the number is 9 or below, or the number is 11 or above. But what about the case where the number equals 10? Well, if the number is not less than 10, then we'll jump down and execute this else if to check to see if the number is greater than 10. If that is a false statement, then we can execute the code in this else statement and echo out the text, the number is 10. So let's go ahead and run this again. Let's recheck our logic with a 9, and we should see the number is less than 10. And we'll change it back to an 11, and we should see the number is greater than 10. And let's go back and check our logic, set the value to 10, and check to see that our result is the number is 10. So this is an example of a conditional statement in PHP. Another commonly used conditional statement is the switch statement. And in the switch statement, we declared a statement with the word switch, and then in parentheses, we put the condition that we want to evaluate. Then, wrapped within the open and closed curly braces, we check the case for a value. So in this case, we're switching on the case where n would be label 1. If the value of n is label 2, then we'll execute the code in this case. The break statement breaks out of the switch. So when the switch is executed, we pass in a value to be evaluated. If this case evaluates to true, we'll execute this code and the break out of the loop. That means we won't come down and check these other cases. If the case is not equal to label 1, then we'll jump down and check the case for label 2. If that's not true, we'll check the case for label 3, and if that evaluates to true, we'll execute this code and then break out. If it's the case where we don't get any matches as we drop down through the case statements in the switch, and if we have a default case, then the code that's in the default will be executed. So let's take a look at an example in action. In this example, I've declared a variable myNumber and set it equal to 10. In my switch, I'm going to pass in the value of myNumber, which is obviously 10. The first case statement will check to see if the value that we passed in is equal to 10, and if it is, we'll echo the number is 10. If the number isn't 10, then we'll check to see the case of the number being 20, and if it is, we'll echo the number is 20. And finally, if we don't get a match on 10 or 20, we'll jump into the default and echo the text the number is neither 10 nor 20. So with the number set to 10, if we run this, we would expect to see the number is 10 displayed on the page, which we do. Now let's change the number to 20 and run it, and we see the number is 20. And finally, let's change this to 100, execute the code, and we'll see the number is neither 10 nor 20. So that's an example of a switch statement in PHP. In the next video, we'll apply what we just learned to make the nav on our pages dynamic dependent upon the page that we're viewing.